A very good morning to all of you. Welcome back to our Science Section B lecture. We were doing lesson number 8, Useful and Harmful Microorganism. We have done what are microorganisms. We have seen beneficial microorganisms in details. Microorganisms are living things you cannot see without a microscope. Some are helpful while others are harmful. Useful or helpful microorganisms, bacteria, live on and in our bodies and keep us alive. Bacteria are used to make cheese and yogurt. Different types of bacteria cause different tastes. Mold is a type of fungus. A mold called penicillin is an antibiotic which we take to kill bad or harmful bacteria. Yeast is another type of fungus. We use yeast when baking bread, which releases carbon dioxide, and to make wine, which creates an ethanol. You can see in the picture what are microorganisms. Microbes make more than 3,500 foods worldwide. These include bread, cheese, soda, chocolate, pickles, and sauerkraut. Microorganisms are tiny living things. We need to use a microscope to see them. Bacteria and viruses are microorganisms. Bacteria rot down dead organisms and put nutrients back into the soil. You can see here the useful and the harmful bacteria. Already in our previous lectures we have done about useful microorganisms. So today we are going to look into detail about harmful microorganisms. Some microorganisms make us very sick and destroy our food. Some types of bacteria are responsible for sicknesses such as pneumonia and food poisoning. Fungus can cause things such as mold on food, athlete's foot, dandruff. There are a number of microorganisms that are responsible for food spoilage, diseases, and infections. Such microorganisms are known as harmful microorganisms. Bacteria are the most dangerous of all microorganisms and are responsible for several infectious diseases such as tuberculosis, popularly known as TB, cholera, diphtheria, etc. Viruses are also responsible for certain fatal diseases such as AIDS, influenza, etc. Fungi are also harmful and can lead to certain skin infections and allergies. We will be seeing that in the further explanation. Thus, we know that microorganisms can be useful as well as harmful. To treat such type of infectious and non-infectious diseases, we require antibiotics. Antibiotics are antimicrobial drugs obtained from other organisms such as molds, fungus, and some soil bacteria. To combat harmful microorganisms, however, they are not very useful against certain microbes such as viruses. Antibiotics are produced on a large scale by the fermentation process. This is a chemical process which is induced by the microorganisms in a large tank. A large tank contains the growth medium that provides nutrition for the microorganisms. Growth. Optimization of temperature, pH level, oxygen, and nutrient parameter in the fermentation tank is very crucial to produce antibiotics. After the completion of antibiotics production, they are extracted and purified through multiple physical processes. Finally, the purified antibiotics are converted into crystal form. Carbon compounds obtained from some bacteria and fungi for destroying or preventing the growth of harmful microorganisms are called antibiotics. Antibiotics, a discovery of the 20th century, have brought about a revolution in the field of medicine. Even a disease like tuberculosis has been almost completely eradicated from some countries. Antibiotics mainly act against bacteria. Some antibiotics can destroy protozoa. Some antibiotics are useful against a wide variety of bacteria. They are called broad spectrum antibiotics. Examples are ampicillin, amoxicillin, tetracycline, etc. When the pathogen cannot be identified even though the symptoms of diseases are visible, broad spectrum antibiotics are used. Whenever a pathogenic microorganism is definitely known, then narrow spectrum antibiotics are used. Examples are penicillin, gentamicin, erythromycin, etc. I hope these medicines you find in your home when doctor prescribes it. The institutes at work. The National Institute of Virology, established in 1952 in Pune, undertakes researches related to disease like measles, jaundice, fever, and diseases of the lungs with support from the World Health Organization. The uses of antibiotics. Let's look into it. Today, the name antibiotic is a synonymous for drugs that kill bacteria. And because of this, mortality rates have reduced and lifespan has increased. These microbial infections can wipe out an entire population of organisms, and that can adversely affect the ecosystem. For instance, anthrax is a disease that infects livestock and can spread to humans, which is often fatal unless it is treated. Antimicrobial therapy is used to destroy or to prevent the microorganism's growth. However, it might not stop the damage that is already done. For example, the anthrax causing bacterium Bacillus anthracis does not actually kill the host included. It is the toxins which are produced that does the deed. Antibiotics might kill the bacteria, but the toxins remain in the body and continue to cause damage. Today, two types of antimicrobial therapies are available. That is why when doctors prescribes you antibiotic, advises you to drink lot of water, so that these toxins will be flushed out from your body through urine. Microbial therapy. It is used to kill the microorganisms. Microbiostatic therapy. It is used to prevent microorganisms growth inside your body. Examples of antibiotics. Penicillin. Is it a broad spectrum or a narrow spectrum? Correct. It's a narrow spectrum medicine or antibiotic. Penicillin was first ever true antibiotic, and it was discovered by Scottish bacteriologist Alexander Fleming in 1928. It was widely used to treat the different types of bacterial infections that plagued men. Ironically, penicillin was an accidental discovery, but it was a landmark discovery in the field of medicine. Penicillin is acquired from a mold called Penicillium notum, also known as Penicillium chrysogenum. Penicillin is a group of antibiotics obtained from a fungus, Penicillium, and is used for controlling the infections caused by bacteria like Staphylococci, Clostridia, Streptococci, etc. Medicines containing penicillin are useful to treat certain bacterial infections of the ear, nose, throat, and skin, as well as diseases like pneumonia and scarlet fever. Antibiotics should be taken only when prescribed by a doctor. Very important things now we are discussing, children. We don't go to the medical shop, and say that give me and you don't become a doctor yourself. But antibiotics are only prescribed by a regular practitioner doctor. Don't purchase any antibiotic from medical stores without a prescription from a doctor. Don't consume antibiotics on your own to treat common diseases like a throat infection, common cold, or influenza. Even if you feel well, before completing of the prescribed course of the antibiotic, you must continue and complete it. That means when you go to doctor, they tell you 3 days, 5 days antibiotics. Please follow the instruction of the doctor, even though you may be feeling better after taking the course for a day. Don't suggest to others the antibiotics which were useful to you. Very important, children. Alexander Fleming, a professor of microbiology at St. Mary's Hospital, had cultured varieties of bacteria and fungi in petri dishes in his laboratory. On 3rd September 1928, while observing Staphylococci cultures, he made an interesting observation in one petri dish. In that petri dish, fungal colonies had grown, but the area around those colonies was clean and clear. Example, bacteria had actually been destroyed. Accidental invention. Those colonies was clean and clear, that is, bacteria had actually been destroyed. After further studies, he confirmed that the fungus growing there was penicillium and its secretion had destroyed the bacterial colonies. Thus, the first antibiotic, penicillium, had been discovered accidentally, and this formed the basis for attempts to find cures for incurable diseases. Shouldn't we always be grateful to Alexander Fleming for discovering the life-saving antibiotics? Wonderful to know. Ants grow fungi in their termitarium, that is anthill, and obtain food from it. Some species of wasps and other insects lay their eggs in the fungal bodies growing on trees, thus ensuring a food supply for their larvae. Microscopic spores of fungi are present in the air. If there is sufficient moisture, spores germinate on fabric, gunny bags, leather, wooden items, etc. The fungal hyphae, fibers of the fungus, penetrate deep into the material to obtain nutrition and to reproduce. This causes the materials to wear and become weak. As a result, gunny bags, leather items, shoes, purses, belts, etc., on which fungi have grown, do not last long. Wooden items also get spoiled. Sometimes you may notice a black powder or white disk floating on the pickle or murabba when a jar is opened after a long time. What exactly is this? Correct, fungus. Why are such food items not good to eat? Because it belongs to the category of harmful microorganisms. Various species of fungi grow on food items like pickles, murabbas, jams, sauce, chutney, etc. They use the nutrients in these food items for growth and reproduction. During this activity, fungi release mycotoxins, certain poisonous chemicals, into the food, and thus they are harmful. Clostridium. Sometimes the food poisoning occurs during community feast. How does this food become poisonous all of a sudden? The bacterium which spoiled cooked food are Clostridium. Out of about 100 different species of this bacterium, some are free living in the soil, whereas some live in the alimentary canal of humans and other animals. These bacteria are rod-shaped and produce bottle-shaped endospores in adverse conditions. One special characteristic of these bacteria is that they cannot withstand the normal oxygen level of the air because they grow in anaerobic conditions. Anaerobic means in the absence of oxygen. Other harmful microorganisms. Do only Clostridium bacteria cause illness? That you have to find, you have to think about it and tell me in the next lecture. Other kinds of microorganisms like bacteria, viruses, protozoa, and fungi are also responsible for different diseases that affect humans. You have learnt about viruses, which are smaller than bacteria and can grow and reproduce only in living cells. Let us see how they are harmful to us. Before that, let's have an introduction to the scientists. It was believed that meat gets spoiled due to some bacteria of the bacillus type, but the exact type of bacillus was not known. When Ermengarm proved that anaerobic bacterium Clostridium botulinum is responsible for food poisoning. Ida Bengtsson obtained higher education in biochemistry at Chicago University. She conducted important research on the toxin responsible for gas gangrene and the antitoxin useful for treating it. While she was doing research on the dreaded disease called typhus, she herself contracted the infection. But she overcame it and continued her research. For this work, she was honored with the Typhus Medal in 1947 when we got freedom in India. The spread and prevention of disease. Look at the chart. AIDS, pathogen is virus, mode of infection through bloodstream and semen of infected person and milk of mother suffering from AIDS, acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. What is the preventive measure? Safe sexual contact, avoid reuse of needles and injections. Hepatitis, pathogen is virus, mode of infection is contaminated water and food. How can you prevent this disease? Clean, filtered water, proper storage of food. Influenza, pathogen is virus. Contact with infected person, it is the mode of infection. How can we prevent? Personal hygiene and avoiding contact with infected person. Measles and chickenpox occurs due to pathogen called virus. Mode of infection is contact with infected person. Preventive measure is vaccination, uncontaminated water, and clean food. Bird flu, swine flu, pathogen is virus, and mode of infection is contact with infected birds and animals, not with people. And how can we prevent? Personal hygiene, properly cooked meat we should consume. Dengue occurs with a pathogen called virus. Mode of infection is mosquito bite. How can we prevent? Cleanliness of surroundings, preventing stagnation of water, mosquito control. Pneumonia occurs due to pathogen called bacteria, and mode of infection is droplet spread in air by infected person. We can prevent it by taking vaccination, avoiding contact with infected person. Leprosy, pathogen is bacteria. Mode of infection is long-term contact with infected person. Prevention is avoiding contact with infected person and their belongings. Cholera, pathogen is bacteria. Mode of infection is contaminated food and water. Prevention is clean food and water. Malaria, pathogen is protozoa. Mosquito bite, unclean surrounding is the mode of infection. And prevention is cleanliness of surroundings and preventing stagnation of water, controlling mosquitoes. Dandruff, ringworms, scabies. The pathogen is fungi. Mode of infection is contact with infected person or his or her belongings like clothes. Prevention is personal hygiene, avoiding contact with infected person. Use your brain power. This is a homework for you. And I believe, children, you will be doing it sincerely so that we can discuss in next lecture. Salt is applied on the inner surface of the pickle jars and the pickle is covered with oil. Why is this done? Which preservatives mixed with ready-to-eat foods to keep them from spoiling? Find out the uses of fungi to plants and animals. What is the structure of lichen, a condiment? Where else it is used? So we have learned so much about microorganisms. The uses of microorganisms. Microorganisms help in the preparation of curd, bread, cake, etc. They are used to produce alcohol at large scale. Yeast is used to prepare vinegar. Microorganisms are used to make wines. They act as cleaning agent and decomposes the waste products into manure. They destroy the plant and animal dead bodies by decomposing them. They make, or you can say fertilize soil fertility by fixing nitrogen in the atmosphere. They are used in making medicines like antibiotics and vaccines. They are used as preservatives for food items. They help in various metabolic activities in our body. There are few ways that a microbe can harmful. First is pathogenicity. These microbes have ability to cause infections, destroy host and transmit to the next possible host. Destroys host defense. Both first line and second line of host defense is targeted and destroyed. Antibiotic resistance. Many strains of bacteria are resistant to antibiotics, which were actually developed as a result of inappropriate use of antibiotics against virus and bacteria. Food poisoning. Bacteria and viruses are the most common cause of food poisoning. The symptoms and severity of food poisoning vary, depending on which bacteria or virus has contaminated the food. Most food poisoning is caused by bacteria, viruses, and parasites, rather than toxic substance in food, but some cases of food poisoning can be linked to either natural toxins or chemical toxins. While some molds are desirable in foods, other molds can produce toxins that cause illness. Food spoilage. Bacteria and fungi species are well known to cause food spoilage as they get enough nutrients, grow there, release their contents, and make food unfit for eating. Biological warfare. Biological weapons include living organisms and biologically produced toxins to injure people, animals, and destroy crops. These include harmful microbes such as bacteria, viruses, and spores. Toxins are produced by these microbes. These causes mass destruction of population. These are few possible ways how microorganism can be harmful. Other minor effects are allergy, acute inflammation, odors from decayed matters, and etc. So in this chapter you have seen the useful and the harmful microorganisms. Thanks for watching.